Hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is The Opinionated Woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, the series where I craft and I talk to you about the last 5 books that I've read. If you've watched my Crafty Reads before, you would see that we are in a slightly different setup today because I've decided that this video's craft is going to be my current obsession, and that's crochet. I cannot get enough. I fucking love crochet so much, holy shit. So yeah, I decided I'm going to be making a granny square because it's a nice easy thing that I can talk to you and make at the same time. And I'm currently working on 2 different blankets because when you start on one crochet project, you can't just stick with one. And the other one, I am making 3 squares out of every different colored ball of yarn that I buy, and then I'm making a patchwork blanket with it. And that's what this granny square with this gorgeous teal is going to be, because I bought this for a Christmas present and I used hardly any of it. So yes, it is granny square time. So without further ado, let's get into the books and let's get into crocheting. So the first book that I read was Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This one has been all over, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. This book has been all over TikTok, and I've seen people talking about it on YouTube as well, and everybody is saying that it is like weird and sapphic and completely unexplainable, and I love books like that. Like, hell yeah, give me something where you're like, what the fuck is going on here? So we're following a married couple called Leah and Mary, and Leah is some kind of biologist of some form, and she does work in like underneath the ocean, like deep in the ocean. And when we start off the beginning of the book, Leah has just come back from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we start off the story, Leah has just come back from an expedition in a submarine, but this expedition did not go as planned. They were meant to be submerged for around 3 weeks, and they ended up being submerged for 6 months with 0 contact. But when she comes to the surface, Leah's not the same as when she first went under, and like, we know that something has happened in this expedition, but we don't know quite what. So I told the story in 2 different time frames. We're in the present with Mary and Leah, and these scenes take place mostly in their apartment with them together, and it is incredibly well written, because the thing is, like, they're in a really intimate setting. You know, it's just the 2 of them in their house alone together most of the time, but there's such a massive distance between them emotionally that it's claustrophobic but distant at the same time. And it's so well written because, like, Mary does not know what to do with Leah. Leah's starting to act stranger and stranger. She has really long, like, very salty baths. There's some body horror in here, so if you're not up for body horror, like, this does have some quite strange body horror in it. And Mary is just trying to figure out some way of helping Leah and trying to get her wife back. And the organization that she went under with is just like not, you know, playing ball, not supporting her, not giving her any information. So she feels very, very lost and very alone. And then the other time frame that we're getting is from Leah when she's actually in the submarine under the sea, and that circumstance is very similar because it's very, very claustrophobic, because we're obviously in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean. It's like the most claustrophobic, and I fucking hate that thought myself. Like, that, like, horror side of it really freaked me out, because that, like, really scares me, the idea of being underwater and being stuck there. But at the same time, she's in very close quarters with the 2 people that she's working with, so it's very intimate at the same time. And we get an insight into what happened while she was on the submarine. And this book is so strange. It's so stunningly written. It's so well crafted. It's so lyrical. So if you like beautiful flowery writing, she does some really beautiful flowery writing. And it just ended in a way that I did not expect. in the slightest, but it fitted so perfectly. And so if you like weird and wonderful, slightly horror, slightly paranormal vibe, then definitely try pick up this book. The next book that I picked up, and one of the reasons that this Crafty Reads has been a long time coming, is A Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a 900-page book. Holy damn. But let me tell you, I have never had a 900-page book read so damn quickly, because it's just so compelling. I can't tell you too much about it, obviously, because I don't want to spoil it, but The Wise Man's Fear is the second in the Kingkiller Chronicles. So it's the one that comes after Name of the Wind, which is like a beloved book by a lot of people on BookTube. But The Wise Man's Fear is still following Koth. We pick up where we left off at the end of Name of the Wind. We're in the university. And I think we get a really good balance of seeing the familiar, you know, like the university life that he has to lead, and the towns around where he goes and plays his lute and all of that kind of thing. So we get a lot of that, but we also get a bunch of exploring and him getting to see a lot of the world, which he hasn't got the opportunity to see at this point. And he goes through so many trials and tribulations, but it's just like, I'm just like on for the ride. Like, oh my God, I really wish that the third book was actually in existence or had any sign of, you know, life. But unfortunately, Patrick Rothfuss has not been forthcoming with this book in the last, 12 years? So I don't know if we're ever going to see an ending to the series, but I still think it's well worth reading because it's so well written, and Koth is such a wonderful character. And what I think this book really explored well was Koth's ability to learn, and how when he's exposed to other cultures and other people, which he is a lot in this book, how much the effort he goes into to actually learn about that culture and to learn new things, and like their customs, their languages, their traditions. Like, he'll go out of his way to learn these new things, you know, to learn a little bit more about the world. And I really like that in him as a character. Will we get a third book? We will see one day, but regardless, I think this is well worth a read. Then I read a classic, and that is The White Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. If you've never heard of this is actually a retelling of Jane Eyre, but taken from the point of view of the wife that was put in the attic. That's all I knew about it going into it, and I am a fan of Jane Eyre, even though I do have my reservations about Jane Eyre being referred to as a love story, and I think this really, really explored that. So we first get introduced to Antoinette and her family. We found out that her family is, because they're in the Caribbean, but Antoinette is a white woman, and her family used to be slave owners, and their family home ends up getting burned down. So we get this backstory about Antoinette, and then just to give us like a little bit of a understanding of where she came from. And then we get some of the points of view, and then we move forward in time to her new husband, which is Mr. Rochester. And they're in the Caribbean after their wedding, and it's very clear from the very beginning that he is very much only in this relationship because of the money, because especially like in the days that this is set, a woman with a fortune, you know, once she gets married, it kind of gets like handed over to the husband, whether she likes it or not, which is just like, yeah, sexism, yay. But from the very beginning, you can see like how much of a cold-hearted man he is, and how much he's just doing all of these things for his own gain, and how he starts to almost gaslight her into having a bit of a mental breakdown. I won't go into too much detail because after all, like, it would be a spoiler. But I think that it shows the really dark side of Mr. Rochester that is probably a much more realistic idea, especially as a man who's had his wife locked in an attic. Like, he's not a romantic hero as so many people portray him. And I think the White Sargasso Sea really took that and ran with it. And the writing is lyrical and stunning at the same time. And it also brings in a factor of race, especially like, you know, white people coming into the Caribbean at that period. And it's also got a lot to do with race, because obviously we've got these white protagonists, but we are in the Caribbean at a certain period in time. And colonialism is rife, obviously. But yeah, it just brings in an element that would have been totally different if it was just set completely in the UK like Jane Eyre was. So I thought it was very well crafted and a perfect accompaniment to the original text. I lost my place. I was like, how many stitches have I done? Okay. Okay, then the next book that I read was another hyped book, and that's Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I really enjoyed this. I've been hearing very mixed reviews about it, but Kayla from Books and Lala really enjoyed it. And when it comes to weirdness, we tend to like the same stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one a go. And I'm really glad I did. I picked it up at a bargain books for a bargain. So I was really glad that it panned out. So in Catherine House, we're following Inez, and she is a university student who's just got into, she's kind of running away from her life. And she's just got into this university called Catherine House. And this university is not like normal universities. You go into it, you have zero contact with the outside world unless you earn a bunch of points to be able to call home. Everybody wears the same outfit, white kids, jeans and a white t-shirt. And then there are all of these studies going on at this school, which is what the school is kind of famous for, is their research into something called plasm. And plasm is not really something that we ever get to totally understand what it is. It's very much like the certain group of students that specialize in it know what's going on, and everyone else is kind of like on the outs. And it's almost like a cult-like vibe in there, because everyone is the same. Everyone does these weird chants when they go to dinner every Friday, and it's just like kind of spooky, like really properly dark academia based story. And I think a lot of people wouldn't like it because it has an ambiguous ending, but I freaking love an ambiguous ending. And I just thought this book was it was just so compelling, and it kept me wondering the entire time. The absolute mystery behind some of this, some of the things going on at the school was really interesting. And just the setting of Catherine House and the way it was described is also, it's so atmospheric. Like, if you like dark academia, I would really recommend Catherine House. And then the final book, and one of the other ones that is responsible for the fact that I haven't had a Crafty Reads for a while, and that is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. As you know, I've been trying to find more thriller writers that I enjoy, and Ruth Ware is one that I've never tried before, so I decided to give her latest one a go when I found it on Scribd. And I'm glad I did. The only thing that I can say for this book is that it was way too fucking long. The audiobook for this was 17 hours. 17 hours. For a freaking thriller? Are you kidding me? Like, it was way too long. But apart from that, I actually really enjoyed the story. So we're following Hannah in 2 different time zones. So the first timeline, oh dear, I've fucked this up. Eek, what have I done? Frog. So we're following Hannah, whose best friend, April, was murdered in their rooms at college when they were at Oxford 10 years ago. And now we're in the present, and Hannah is married to April's ex-boyfriend. She's pregnant with his baby, and the man that she, like, her testimony basically put behind bars for April's murder has now died in prison. And there's this journalist who's trying to look for info about April's case and everything, and he's starting to uncover some stuff and making Hannah question the the testimony that she gave that actually led John Neville to be convicted. So we're following that sort of time where Hannah is trying to figure out, you know, like, was I right? Was I wrong? You know, what things, and sort of like uncovering unknowns, like as she delves into her past. And then we are in the past when we're following Hannah when she is at Oxford, when she's at Oxford and she's rooming with April. April's becoming her best friend. They've got this, you know, group of friends. April's dating Will. And, you know, it's just different relations between the friends and things like that, and a lot of pranks that April does throughout college. And so we get like the school vibe, which I really enjoyed. But we've also got this like mystery hanging over our heads this whole time, because you're trying to find, in the past scenes, you're trying to find little hints at what could have possibly happened to April. And who would be responsible and all of that kind of stuff. So I found that really compelling. And what I found was really great about this writing is that I was suspicious about this one character from maybe about halfway, maybe a bit under halfway. I was like, I'm a little bit suspicious of this person, but I was suspicious about them in a way that I couldn't put my finger on. It wasn't like a really obvious hint, which drives me crazy, or it wasn't like so obvious that I thought maybe it was a red herring. Like, it was genuinely a really well written sort of hint. I don't know how she managed it, but I felt very smart when it turns out that I was right. And the twist at the end of this book, like sometimes, especially with domestic thrillers, the twist at the end, I'm just like, you know. But the twist at the end of this, I actually out loud said, that's a damn good twist. Like, that's a damn good twist. So I found that to be really, really great. As I said, the only thing that I had a problem with was the fact that this book was so damn long. It didn't need to be as drawn out as it was. I feel like she, you know, overworked small scenes that didn't really make much difference to the story itself. But I still enjoyed it, and I think I am going to give Ruth Ware a go in the future. Alrighty. Oh my gosh, that went so quickly. I was just like crocheting away. This is as far as I've got. I'm not that fast yet, but so I can't do like one granny square while I'm talking about my books. But thank you for joining me. That was a lot of fun. If you did enjoy this, please like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. If you ever want to support my channel, I have my little Ko-fi account linked below for a little one-time tip. Be much appreciated. And yeah, I'll check you next time.